Persona 3 redefined the Persona series in both writing and mechanics, and one of the innovations that showcased both of these in one was the social link system, where you spend time with a character to grow closer and learn more about them in a side story. These social links have become a popular staple of the series since, so today, to celebrate the shiny new remake of Persona 3, Persona 3 Reload, I'm going to be doing personal rankings and analysis of every social link from P3, along with some thoughts from special guests. This ranking will include social links from both Persona 3 FES and Persona 3 Portable, though I'm not covering any of the links that automatically level up through the story progression, as I want to focus on the side stories that you have to do extra work in-game to experience. So, without further ado, let's talk about the good and the bad of Persona 3 social links.
You've taken F to a new level. I'm going to give you a Super F!
Starting with the worst social link in not just Persona 3 but in the series, we have Ken's Portable exclusive social link for the female protagonist, the one that disgusts me the most. So, Ken is like 10 and the protagonist is a teenager, pretty sizable age gap, so of course someone at Atlas decided, hey, let's make them date during the social link with no option to deny it. That means if you want to see everything the game has to do with femc, you have to date Ken. Disgusting. Persona has done a lot of skeevy things, but this one might take the cake, to be honest, especially because it's one of your party members and friends. Not just that, but a traumatized child. It sucks because the first half of the link is pretty basic but fun, seeing Ken learn to cook and grieve about his shitty hand he was dealt in life, but the second half of the link just ruins all the fun times. Yuck, yuck, yuck. And joining Ken at the bottom of the barrel is the Gourmet King. We all know his social link is really bad, so to spice this segment up, I got Shafrillis Productions to say words of him instead of me, so take it away, James.
Oh no, Zomi. I find this guy so fascinating because it's like, what was the goal of the writers here? To make the most unlikable character you would never want to hang out with in a game where you have limited time to hang out with people? You know there are good social links exclusive to the femc route that aren't in Reload because we had to have this fucker back. I can get over his gluttonous tendencies. You know, I eat 35 delicious pancakes for breakfast each morning, so I'm not one to judge. But he's also just an arrogant asshole who scams people out of their money. And if that wasn't enough, we mustn't forget that out of nowhere, he just joins a cult? And he keeps obsessively telling you about his cult? What? A completely aimless, weird story with the most unlikable social link character in the entire Persona series. Truly, it doesn't get worse than this. I can't wait to see my boy in glorious HD though, because this link is so bad it's good.
Let's think of other things that starts with C. Who cares about other things?
Alright, now we're in C tier, the social links that are either unremarkable, mixed, or just okay. Rio's social link is exclusive to the female protagonist in Portable, and it is simply not entertaining. It's one of the worst cases of added content in Portable, as it doesn't really feel like it adds much to the experience or its themes, it's just there for new content's sake. I wish I had gotten more from it, but all I got was a lame story about a strict trainer having to be less strict, and then dumb bullshit crush stuff. I simply do not care for it. Yuko's social link functions. There's nothing offensively bad in it, but nothing stand out. It goes in one ear, out the other for me, though it's kinda cool seeing the protagonist and Yuko mentor some kids, but that's about all of note for me. The Maya social link is one of the most creative social links in the game conceptually, taking place in an online MMO called Innocent Sin, which is a massive Persona 2 reference. You meet a player in the MMO called Maya, and you quickly become fast friends. Almost too fast of friends, as she vents and complains to you about various things in her personal life. Some of these things are fine, like complaints about coworkers, but other things are not, such as having a crush on one of her students, even joking about abusing her power to get closer to them. It's just gross, and the fact that it's your teacher and she's talking about you takes away from a lot of the initial charm the social link had once we get there. I think what pisses me off about all this is that it's treated more for laughs and a power fantasy than with any amount of, hey, this may not be right. Such a conflicting social link, some of the most creative stuff in the game, but also some of the worst. The first major social link in Persona 3 is the infamous Kenji, and this one kinda throws you into the deep end of its subject matter. Kenji is very interested in dating his teachers and older women in general, and while it's a bit cringy, it's more cringy than, oh, a bonehead teenager would act this way, than a bad writing kinda way. I do like that it ultimately culminates in him realizing he's been stuck in his own world and that he should appreciate his friendship with the protagonist instead of chasing a stupid toxic romance, something that later social links lack. I think it's okay to explore such mature themes, you just gotta handle them with some kind of tact, and I thought Kenji's was mixed on that front, so that's why it's so low, but it's ultimately fine. Mutasu's social link is okay, I guess. My main issue is that his situation remained stagnant for so long that compared to his other more dynamic links, I wasn't as entertained. I do like his blunt words of wisdom he ditches out, but the actual story of the link could have been more interesting. Mamoru's social link is pretty chill at the start, however as the link progresses, Mamoru must take time away from his hobbies to support his family to the point of having to move out at the end. It's solid stuff about the harsh realities of some life situations, I just didn't find it as flavorful as other links you could do in the game. Fuka is one of my favorite characters in the Persona series, so naturally I would keep a keen eye on her social link to see if it does her character justice, and it's fine, I guess. It's all about Fuka trying to get better at cooking, which requires the protagonist to taste her initial terrible dishes. This leads to a lot of middling jokes, which isn't helped by the fact that Fuka quits cooking near the end when the romance part of the route comes, which rubs me the wrong way. For a character who has an interesting supporting role in the team compared to more active party members, I wish there was a bit more sauce to the social link. Luckily, if you play as the female protagonist in Portable, Fuka's social link is much better, as the female protagonist actually helps Fuka get better with cooking, which is a much better incorporation of having Fuka wanting to break out of her timid shell, while being a much nicer link in general to experience. Maiko's link deals with a little thing called divorce. You see, Maiko is a little girl who vents to the protagonist about her family issues, which ultimately leads to them doing a divorce and Maiko coming to terms with it. I thought this was a fine social link, I just didn't connect with it personally as much as the ones up high, but I know it'll hit some audiences hard with its subject matter. Kazushi's a chill guy, but his social link shows he has a problem with his pride and accepting help as he tries to push through a serious injury without telling anyone. I like the moral here of taking time to help yourself when it comes up instead of just pushing through everything to impress others. It's good stuff. Bebe is a foreign exchange student from France, and I think he's neat. The character himself is very silly and often stereotypical, but he still feels earnest in his admiration for Japanese culture, especially when his hidden pathos comes out, so he's alright in my book. Sayori is a social link I'm very conflicted on. On one hand, Sayori's a nice girl, but on the other hand, all throughout this link she's abused and gaslit in horrible ways, which ends up with her getting kicked out of school at the end. Part of me feels like all this abuse was for all unneeded shock value, but another part of me realizes that it kinda breaks down the notion that being a teenager is the easiest part of people's lives. In reality, it could be the lowest point where many have to climb out of it, so Sayori will have to do the same. It's a very dark social link, one I'm not sure all worked narratively, but the more I think about it, the more I get it and appreciate it. Konomaru is a straight up dog, so most of your social link with him involves feeding him dog food and going on walks. I like dogs, so I'm down with a silly social link like this. While lacking at a gripping narrative, sometimes Persona is about the vibes of hanging out with fellas, and Konomaru's social link captures that well. I've always liked Yukari, and her social link reaffirms that appreciation. The core of it centers around Yukari's issues with her mom and ultimately trying to mend wounds in their relationship, which is solid stuff that ties into the main story without subtracting from it. Mitsuru's social link is solid enough. It has her deal with arranged marriage shenanigans, and near the end of the link she confesses to the protagonist and fights off her now former fiance. It's fine stuff, but feels quite typical for Mitsuru's character archetype. In fact, much like Fuka, I prefer the female protagonist link for Mitsuru, where instead of romance, it's about exploring her own womanhood and self-integrity, which is much more interesting while playing into the themes of gendered presentation that Portable adds. Akihiko's one of my favorites of the main Persona 3 cast, so I was interested to see what would happen in a social link with him during a female protagonist playthrough, and what I got was what I expected from the characters, and I'm grateful for that. Akihiko's a chill and caring guy with a lot of untapped trauma within himself that he must confront, and his social link expresses those ideas well. It's not the peak of his character, none of these moments come close to matching his main story struggles, but they're solid for a side quest. To round off B tier, we have 2 whole cameos back to back, so please welcome Glass Bear Productions and Agent Nessie.
Junpei Iori is just a bro. If you completely forget about the shitty person who voices him, like I do on a daily basis, Junpei is one of the most likable characters in the game to me. Junpei may be noisy, airheaded, and a bit too extroverted, but he's still kind, caring, and surprisingly thoughtful and emotionally intelligent. In his social link, he asks you how you're feeling after your hospital visit at the start of the link. He laments the current state of the MCU having villains who have tragic pasts to make up for their evil actions. He talks to you more and more about his personal life as the story progresses, and you go on many activities that seem like dates from an outside perspective. The thing is though, even if you pick the female character option, none of his activities actually are romantic dates. They're just two friends hanging out, getting to know each other more, and platonically bonding. Most JRPGs that I've played that have a social system like this usually have opposite-sex pairings end romantically, but Junpei is different. While there isn't love in the traditional sense, the bond is more so built on mutual respect, care, and friendship as opposed to romantic attraction. It results in a pairing that I weirdly find more wholesome than some of the more romantic pairings, and Junpei himself is a big facet to that. Honestly, in terms of making him this likable, charming, and overall fantastic, there isn't anything they could have done to make him any better. I have been a diehard Zeno Robinson fan ever since 2018 when I started watching Big City Greens. Ever since then, I know Zeno getting more and more roles with steadily more and more acclaim. His most well-known role is Hawks from My Hero Academia, and that role is what I believe got him on the map in terms of public recognition, and he's only continued to grow his career from there. He even voices one of the better characters from my favorite show of all time. He is currently one of my favorite voice actors in the industry right now, and learning that Best Boy Junpei is getting voiced by him in the remake has me so excited, oh my god!
Tanaka's Confidant is honestly one of my favorites in the game. It definitely takes the spot for the best Devil Arcana member, although it's not a tough race. He's one of those characters who is shitty to a certain degree where it wraps around to being lovable, similar to characters like Grunkle Stan or Saul Goodman. In his initial Confidant tier, he tells the protagonist that honesty won't get him anywhere in life, which is one of my favorite lines in the Confidant. As the Confidant progresses, though, he teaches you about placebos, stocks, and many more of his questionable business practices and products, with one of my favorites being the camera that can see through people's clothes. It doesn't do this, but he knows no one will complain for their money back, because they would have to admit that they bought one. Towards the middle of the Confidant, he begins to ease up on you, and stops threatening you at the end of each Confidant tier. You get to learn more about his humble beginnings and how he rose into money from being poor. Even though he's a shady guy, he's got an inspiring story. In his 7th tier, he discusses how a young man he met wants to become a public prosecutor and take Tanaka down. The situation he describes is basically the boat scene from Wolf of Wall Street.
The fucking hero that I'm gonna be back at the office when the Bureau seizes this fucking boat.
Alright, get the fuck off my boat.
Then during the last couple of tiers of the Confidant, Tanaka decides to donate to charity. Not out of kindness though, as he does it to benefit himself and the business, and he thinks the charity lady's hot. And the Confidant ends there. Honestly, a little abruptly, the ending feels out of place as a rank 10 and feels more akin to a rank 5. Either way, I enjoy Tanaka's Confidant. Even though he's still pretty shady, he did give to charity and shows he came from a tough place. However, considering his appearance in later games, I think the public prosecutor got to him. Sorry, Tanaka.
So if you're not a fan of the words, peak fiction, goat, raw, fire, click off of the video.
Ryoji's one of my favorite characters from Persona 3 with his charming, flamboyant personality, so getting to spend more time with him in a social link in the female protagonist route is very cool for me. No spoilers here, as Ryoji's very relevant to the main story, but I quite like the new adorable but tragic dynamic that's brought with the protagonist and Ryoji's relationship in this social link, especially in their last meeting. Keisuke's social link involves him grappling with his future job prospects. You first meet him at a school club, but Keisuke's father pressured him into becoming a doctor like him. At first, Keisuke wants to reject that path, but he learns throughout the link that he legit likes helping people, and by the end resolves to be a doctor, not because of his father, but because that's what he wants to do. It's good stuff that's helped by the fact that Keisuke is a legit likable dude. I guess the social link is one of the last ones you can do in this game, and with the somber tone the end of Persona 3 is known for, naturally the social link would be more mellow than the others. There's still a couple of silly scenes, but it primarily deals with Aigis coming to terms with her free will. Just because she's a robot doesn't mean she doesn't deserve deserve happiness. The Icus link has some of the best pure vibes of any of the social links, so if you get the chance, make sure to do it. Alright, we got another cameo incoming, so please welcome Ashley of Ashley's Pony Stable. Woohoo!
The first thing I like about Chihiro's social link happens before it even begins. Persona 3 does a really great job of obfuscating a lot of the social links before you even unlock them. The first time I played Persona 3, it was blindly and as my first game in the series, so I didn't know who would and wouldn't be a potential social link. I explored around the school each day, talking to each NPC and exploring each room, seeing what I could find to interact with. I noticed that each day Chihiro would have a slightly different dialogue interaction, where she would come across as shy, but slowly open up to me with each passing day. It wasn't until I'd done this a few times that she'd finally warmed up to me enough to allow me to begin her link. What I like about this is how these little events that happen throughout the entire game make its world feel so much more believable. First of all is because it means the social links become unlocked in unpredictable but easy to find ways throughout the game. It feels intuitive, like you don't need to walk through it, but it still feels exciting and adds a lot to Chihiro as a character. Of course a character who is shy would have a difficult time opening up to you. Onto the social link proper, Chihiro Fushimi's one continues to focus on her shyness and anxiety around talking to others. The first few ranks are straightforward enough. You get to know more about her and go on various dates. She talks about her love of reading and stumbles upon an expensive manga art book that she can't afford. She puts the book back and vows to save up her allowance to buy it at a later date. The story of the social link really kicks in a little bit after this, when a student mentions that the school's material fee has been misplaced and says it's her job as treasurer to take responsibility for it. She claims that she did pass the fee on to one of the teachers and that she has nothing to do with whatever caused the money to become unaccounted for. The rest of the social link is about you helping her gain the courage to stand up for herself and clear her name. It's not the deepest or most complex social link in Persona 3, far from it, but it doesn't need to be. Early on in the social link, it's very easy to progress. You just need to say whatever you think Chihiro would want to hear, and a lot of the time it means standing up for her whenever she gets nervous about anything. However, near the end of the social link, there's a cool moment that revolves around you needing to abstain, so that she can finally learn to stand up for herself instead. What I like about Chihiro's social link is how likable she is as a character, and how she's written in such a way that it feels satisfying to see her work towards overcoming her flaws and ultimately succeed. It's made even cooler in the follow-up game Persona 4, where we actually get to see a far more confident Chihiro give a speech to the Yasogami students, showing just how impactful the events of the link were on her and how she continued to grow after it.
I love Shinjiro and his social link is awesome. I don't want to spoil too much about it as Shinjiro's a pivotal character for the later half of the game, but man, for a retroactive portable social link, they knocked it out of the park with this one. On the outside, Shinjiro might be a cool but tough loner, but we see more wholesome sides to him as the social link progresses. It's honestly my favorite romance route in Persona 3 because of how bittersweet it ultimately ends up being. Again, not spoiling too much, but this honestly makes portable worth a play. The old couple is one of the most wholesome yet heartbreaking social links of the game. You just talk to these charming old people as they open up to you about their deceased son who used to work at the school you go to. It ties into the themes of life and death of the main stories so well while providing a new lens to view these themes through the old couple. It's a social link that speaks for itself in terms of its vibes and weight, so this is a high recommendation to do for me. Hidetoshi's social link is a very fascinating one, as he's part of the school's disciplinary committee and is tasked with finding someone who left cigarettes in the boys' bathroom. He's initially very mean when questioning his fellow students, letting his position of power get the best of him. Though as he grows closer with the protagonist, he learns to loosen up and let go of his abusive power trip tendencies against the students. This is one of my favorite social links in the game, as we see the strict and serious fellow mellow out and learn to be more empathetic, learning to accept others' perspectives instead of trying to force everyone to his. You can even tie the social link back to the wider game's message of making meaningful bonds with the limited time you have, as you'll need to be understanding of others to form said bonds. Akanari's social link made me cry like a baby while researching and writing his segment. Even from just the music, you could tell this social link is something special. Usually the other social links will have the average Persona 3 music playing, but when you talk to Akanari, you get some of the saddest but most beautiful piano arrangements in the series. As for the contents of the link, Akanari's a man of not much time. He has a terminal illness that will kill him any day now. He just wants to immerse himself in good books for the time he has left. However, he finds comfort in the protagonist's presence as he doesn't treat him any different from anyone else. He just treated him like a normal human being. As the social link progresses, Akanari starts to write a story, hoping to leave something behind when he passes through one of his favorite things, books. While proving troubling at times due to his declining health, he ultimately manages to finish the story, coming to the conclusion that while he might die, his life was worth it if he helped someone either through his art or as a person. This social link perfectly ties into the themes of the main story and embodies what I love about Persona 3, telling an emotional gripping tale about the trials and tribulations of finding purpose within our limited lives. Whether it's by ourselves or for others, our lives could mean something if we seize the day. I'm so happy Reload's gonna give a whole new generation of players the experience of one of my favorite stories of all time. Thank you Atlas, and thank you viewers at home for watching me critique and gush about one of my favorite games. I hope you find even a fraction of love I have for this game either through this video or by playing it yourself.